Alright, so let's adjust the profile. We've looked at profiles. We've seen some of the issues that we have to deal with. But now we just get to choose. So, of course, ethnicity is a huge part of this. And we didn't really look at people of, say, Chinese or Japanese or from the Philippines or something of that nature. We didn't really look at that. But everything done and said, we can globalize a couple of different simple things. One of them is that the face angle is one of the issues we're kind of talking about. So if somebody's got this plane can, of course, move back and forth, can move forward. It can move. Well, the forehead can move forward. The muzzle of the mouth can move more forward. Yeah, either way, it can tilt up and down. And then what we're really talking about is the arrangement of things on either side of that. So you want to establish your main facial plane. And so we're going to go, we might as well do two versions. I mean, it'd be great to see her with a, say, a Megan Fox profile, classic Caucasian profile, and then something that's more of a mixed heritage, like Rosario Dawson or Zoe Saldana. That would be, I think, a really good way to experiment with the whole thing. So why don't we start with that? In fact, we can save this out, and we're going to call this 30 version 101. And then I'm going to save it again, but this one version 2. Oops, I just called it version. Version 2. And then I'll just bring it in. So version 2 is already in there. Let's delete version 1. Don't want that hanging around. Or version 0, I guess is what you'd call that. There we go. So that top subtool is named version 1 and version 2. Hopefully Transpose Master is going to hold that up. And let's see what happens. So version number 1, T-pose mesh. Let's see what kind of trouble we can get into. And I should emphasize that we're not being precise. I mean, I'm not dealing with facial tissue depth markers anymore. Those we could be much more precise, but we would be in a different. We would have different goals at that point, and those aren't the goals that I want to emphasize or talk too much about right now. What I want to talk about right now is just really how to get the sculpting that we want, not the forensic or scientific accuracy. Okay, so what would be, this is going to be our Caucasian model, something like Megan Fox, Julia Roberts. What would be the primary thing that we change? The face plane is relatively stable, but what do you think would be the primary things that's going to change? There's a couple of ways you can answer this, obviously. One way that you can answer this is by saying, what's the primary anatomical element that changes? In the skull, for example. Well, one of the things that I find changes a great deal is the maxilla. And the maxilla, let's just put it in here. This is going to be that area where the teeth are. So the zygomatic is off to this side. Let me do that a little bit cleaner. Frontocephaloidal. Then that's the frontal bone. Okay, nasal bone comes in. Alright. Maxilla. The maxilla is probably what's going to change the most. The mandible is going to change, and it changes in conjunction with the frontal bone. The zygomatic, that does change as well. it either gets pushed farther forward for more of an Asian descent, or it's going to get pushed farther back for non-Asian, basically, is the way that gets broken down. And so what we can do with that in mind, we don't need to show just the bones. Although, that's a separate thing that we can do. Right now what we need to do is just push and pull this stuff around. So symmetry is on. Try move elastic. And then just try move. Alright. And you see how I'm pulling the nasal bone forward? Okay, take a look at the Julia Roberts one here. Imagine how far forward that maxilla is. How much volume is in there? A lot. So I'm pulling that forward. Keep the nose anchored back there. Don't pull the nose farther forward. You want that nostril to still have some depth to it. But you do have to make some adjustments. You gotta pull in the glabella, and you gotta pull out that nose and get that underplane working a little bit. So I'm going to pull in the glabella section. Tip of the nose is going to get pulled out. Columella. Okay, I'm just using move and alt. Okay, and let's make sure that chin is pushed back but still nice and angular. Let's check a couple of other elements. Jawline. Versus the jawline here. So Julia Roberts is going to go a little bit, she's going to have less of the ramus back here, and definitely the angle of the jaw she's going to have less of. So let's try that. That's not, there's a lot of variety there. You can take a look at Olivia Wilde. Olivia Wilde has a really strong ramus, a really strong jaw. Keira Knightley, strong jaw. Megan Fox, kind of a blend. Let's go towards that Megan Fox direction. I'm going to adjust the mandible. When you adjust the mandible, a couple of things to keep in mind. You want to adjust one curve and another curve. Think about the alveolar, not the alveolar, but let's look at it from below. Try to think about the mandible, so it's one curve and then another curve. And then this angle. Out, in, what do we want to do? Whatever you do, I'm recommending you play with this, that you get comfortable with varieties of options. Keep in mind where the corner of the mouth is, where that nostril is, corner of the eye. Keep in mind how far these are from the outside. This is one of the key things that happens when we're learning all this stuff, is we forget to keep depth in mind. So keep that depth. Notice I'm having to push that corner of the mouth back quite a bit. I don't want to push it up or down because we already set that. But I don't mind pushing it back. And I certainly don't mind pushing that nostril back in space. And then just realigning the muscles here a little bit. Okay. Now we can next figure out where the glabella is in relationship to that chin. Forward or back. Forward or back. This is a case of the chin being forward. Julie Roberts, pretty much a case of the chin being back. Do both. Sit there, look at him, see which one you like the most, or which one kind of works. I'm going to rotate this into a 3/4, turn perspective on, and then press Control-Shift-Z, Control-Z, Control-Shift-Z. I'm going to leave it pulled back. Yeah. For this model, I think having it pulled back is going to work quite well. So send it back. Z plugin, T-pose mesh, and we will have completed our first adjustment for attractiveness, and then move on to the next one. Okay, there it is. And now we're looking at it from a front view. Perspective is on, and I think that looks pretty good. A lot of really positive qualities there. I think a lot of things that would work really well. And again, I'll contrast it with our original sculpt. Let's see, let's go back. Yeah, you can almost see it when you switch between them. Boom. Boom. Okay. So I like that. That's one version. Let's check out version number 2. And in version number 2, we're going more Rosario Dawson. And so let's come in, T-pose mesh. Okay, there we are. So version number 2. Let's make sure we save. This is version number 1, I think. No, here's version number 1. Let's save that as -02, just in case, because these are exactly the same, and that T-pose mesh is coming in with a name I'm not comfortable with. So it's T-pose number 4. Where did T-pose number 5 go? Let's just open up and go right to it. There we go. Alright, perspective is on. Let's take a look at some of our reference, some of what we're thinking about. Corner of the mouth, nose. Keep in mind the plane changes A little bit squarer of a nose, but look at how full those lips are. Really strong chin. And that eye going back. Forward and a nice slope to the nose. So let's aim to get those intact. First thing I want to do is really emphasize how far back the corner of that mouth goes. So again, we're going to try not to adjust anything from a front view. Front view's already been adjusted for attractiveness. If anything, what we might do is just round out the nostrils a little bit. Okay, I'm going to adjust the nose to make it a little bit more Rosario Dawson. So at this point, we're just going to make this a little bit squarer. Yeah, about like that. And that's the alar cartilage. Now, there's a lot of anatomy to go in and look for, but one of the things about the alar cartilage is it's not going to be, let's switch over to ZBrush. It's not going to just be this simple little alar that connects all the way up right here. The alar cartilage is going to change for Rosario Dawson's character. It's actually going to creep and start to take over some of that, what would have been the nostril wing. So we want to get that. Let's just move that back, and might be best to do that in a 3/4 view. And that really emphasizes that ball of the nose. I'm going to exaggerate the lips a little bit. Specifically her lower lip. Still need a slope for her nose. And alar is going to get quite large. Okay, and her forehead. Now the eye, something that we kind of have ignored in the other one. I'm going to set those eyes deeper. Just pushing back that zygomatic bone. So this is still expanding the maxilla. Still expanding it, but it's more at the cost of pushing back this part of her skull, pushing that back, and pushing some of this a little bit forward. Okay. Make sure I didn't change anything major. I'm gonna pull out, make that a little bit wider. Okay. Alright, in comparison, so lots of things. Forehead, it's going to be sloped back a little bit more. Okay, gave her a little bit more of a glabella, which could be seen as more masculine, but not always. Nice strong alar cartilage. More of a slope to that upper lip. This is going to be flatter. The nose is pointier. And then the whole muzzle of, let's say, the Megan Fox face is going back in space, whereas this is a little bit more straight up and down. Okay, deeper set eye. And I left that mandible where it was, kind of strong. So let's send that one back. Hopefully it's going back to the right model. Alright, there we go. Transferred away. So let's look at these two different ones. And in fact, why don't we save them? Let us turn draw aligned object on so that the perspective is always looking right at the object. You only really get away with this on models like this, the heads, things of that nature. Okay. So those are the different profiles, the different things that we have established. In the next video, we'll go through an overview of what we've changed and just really sink this information in.